Evelyn walked slowly into the restaurant, holding a small wrapped box in her hands. It was her son Mark's 35th birthday, and she wanted this day to be special for him. She had chosen a framed photo of him as a child. His first bicycle ride, hair messy, smile wide, the kind of photo only a mother would treasure. It wasn't expensive, but to her it was priceless. The restaurant was already filled with chatter and clinking glasses. A long table stretched across the room, decorated with balloons and candles. Tessa, Mark's wife, had planned the entire evening. She was standing near the center, dressed elegantly, greeting guests with her usual confidence. Evelyn noticed how Tessa's eyes flicked to the small box in her hands, and then away, with a faint smirk. "Mom, you made it." Mark came over quickly, kissing her cheek. He looked genuinely happy, though there was a tiredness around his eyes. Work had been heavy lately, Evelyn knew. He led her to the table, but when they reached the seats, Tessa intervened. "Evelyn, why don't you sit down here?" she said, pointing to a chair at the very end of the table. Far from Mark, far from the center. Evelyn hesitated for a moment, but didn't argue. She had learned long ago that peace was often more valuable than pride. Dinner began. Plates of pasta, roasted chicken, and salads were served. Laughter rose from the center of the table, where Tessa kept most of the attention. Evelyn ate quietly, smiling politely whenever someone made eye contact. She didn't mind being quiet. She just wanted to be there for her son. Halfway through dinner, Tessa stood and tapped her glass with a fork. "Everyone," she said loudly, "thank you for coming tonight to celebrate Mark. He deserves the best, and I wanted to make sure this night is perfect." Guests clapped politely. Evelyn clapped too, though she noticed the way Tessa's eyes lingered on her, sharp and almost daring. Then came the moment of gifts. Friends and relatives handed over neatly wrapped boxes and gift bags. Tessa presented Mark with a sleek wristwatch, bragging about how she had chosen it carefully. Applause filled the air. Evelyn's hands trembled slightly as she pushed her small box forward across the table. "This is from me, sweetheart," she said softly. Tessa picked it up before Mark could. She raised her eyebrows dramatically and held it up for everyone to see. "Oh, look," she said with a sugary laugh. "Mark's mom finally brought a gift. A cheap one, but hey, at least it's something." A ripple of uncomfortable laughter moved through the guests. Some looked down at their plates, others shifted in their seats. Mark frowned, his hand reaching for the box, but the damage was already done. Evelyn's cheeks flushed, but she didn't snap back. Years of patience kept her steady. Instead, she slowly reached into her purse and pulled out a plain brown envelope. She placed it quietly in front of her son. Mark looked confused. "Mom, what's this?" Evelyn simply said, "Open it." The restaurant seemed to hush, the clatter of silverware suddenly distant. Mark carefully tore open the envelope and began to pull out papers, receipts, documents, things he didn't immediately understand. His eyes scanned the first page, and his face shifted. The joking atmosphere vanished as he flipped to the next paper, then the next. The table grew silent. Tessa's confident smile wavered, her eyes narrowing. She leaned forward slightly, trying to peek at the papers. "What is that?" she demanded. But Evelyn said nothing. She sat calmly, watching her son's expression change from confusion to shock to something much deeper. The birthday dinner, once filled with laughter and light, had shifted. Something was coming, something no one at that table expected. And it all began with a small, cheap gift and a plain brown envelope. Mark stared at the papers in his hands, blinking as if trying to make sense of what he was seeing. The restaurant's soft music continued to play, but to him, it sounded distant now, muted by the thudding of his own heartbeat. Tessa leaned forward, her smile thin. "What is it, Mark?" she asked sweetly, but her voice trembled slightly. He looked at his mother. "Mom, what are these receipts?" Evelyn stayed quiet for a moment, her calm eyes fixed on him. Then, in a soft voice, she said, "Those are proof, Mark. Proof of what's been happening for the last 3 years." The guests at the table shifted uncomfortably. Some tried to look away, but curiosity kept their eyes glued to the scene. Mark flipped through the first few pages. Each one was a printed bank receipt. He read the lines: monthly mortgage payment, $7,000. Sender, E. Hart. He frowned. These are payments for our house." Tessa laughed nervously. "That can't be right. Those must be fake, maybe a mix-up, right?" She turned to Evelyn, her tone suddenly sharp. "Where did you even get those?" Evelyn didn't answer immediately. She looked tired, not angry, just disappointed. "I got them from my own account," she said quietly. I've been paying your mortgage every single month, Tessa. Since the day you and Mark bought that house. A murmur rippled through the guests. Tessa's face drained of color. Mark stared at the papers again, reading more carefully this time. The dates lined up perfectly. Every month since the purchase. Every payment made by Evelyn. He could barely speak. Mom, why didn't you tell me? Evelyn sighed, her voice low but firm. Because I wanted you to feel independent. I wanted you both to build your life without feeling like you owed me anything. I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because I love you. The air around the table grew heavy. No one was laughing now. Tessa's fingers drummed nervously on the table, the sound sharp and restless. That's ridiculous, she snapped. You're making it sound like we couldn't afford our own home. Evelyn looked directly at her. Can you? She asked simply. The question hung in the air like smoke. Mark looked down at the receipts again. Then beneath them, he noticed another paper. It was thicker, official looking. He pulled it out. What's this? He asked. Evelyn's eyes softened. That's the property title, Mark. I think you should read it. He unfolded the document slowly, the paper crisp under his fingers. His name was there, and next to it, in clear print, was his mother's, Evelyn Hart. Tessa froze. Wait, what? She said, her voice cracking. You're on the title? That's impossible. We bought that house together. Evelyn nodded. Yes, but when the bank asked for a co-signer, I agreed. I paid the down payment. I've been paying the loan since day one. That makes me a co-owner. Tessa's hands gripped the table edge. Her perfect smile was gone now, replaced by panic. You mean you own half of my house? Evelyn turned her eyes toward her son, not Tessa. Our house, Mark. Yours and mine. I never took your name off it. But I had to protect what I helped build. Mark's face went pale. He looked from his mother to his wife, his voice barely above a whisper. Tessa, did you know about this? Tessa didn't answer. She glanced away, lips pressed tight. Evelyn watched her carefully. You didn't know, she said softly. But you were planning something else, weren't you? Mark blinked. Planning what? Evelyn reached into the envelope again and pulled out one last sheet. She didn't say a word as she passed it to her son. He unfolded it, and his eyes widened in disbelief. It was a house listing agreement, printed and signed. His own signature was there, along with his mother's, but something was wrong. Both signatures were forged. Mark's voice shook. Tessa, what is this? The room went dead silent. Even the waiter, who was about to pour wine, froze in place. Tessa stammered. It's nothing. I was just talking to a realtor. It doesn't mean anything. But it did mean something. The papers were dated last week. The realtor's name and contact were printed at the bottom. Evelyn's face was calm, but her voice was firm when she spoke. The realtor called me, she said. He wanted to verify my signature before he listed the house. He said you told him both Mark and I had agreed to sell. Tessa shook her head quickly, her voice rising. No, I just wanted to explore options. I didn't mean to. Mark interrupted her. You forged our names, Tessa. His words came out like a quiet explosion. The guests around the table gasped. Someone whispered, Oh my God. Tessa's hands trembled. I was trying to help. We needed money for the boutique. You don't understand. Mark stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. His eyes were full of disbelief, hurt and anger. You were going to sell our house behind my back. Evelyn's voice was steady, low but strong. And behind mine. The room had no sound now. No music, no laughter, no celebration. Just heavy silence, and the pounding of Mark's heart as he stared at the woman he thought he knew. Tessa tried to speak again, but her words caught in her throat. Evelyn slowly stood up, gathering her purse. I didn't come here to embarrass anyone, she said softly. But the truth has its own way of showing up. She looked at her son one last time. You deserve to know who's standing beside you, Mark. And who's standing against you. And with that, she turned and walked toward the exit. No one stopped her. No one could. The sound of the restaurant door closing behind her was the only thing anyone heard for a long time. Silence sat at the long table like a heavy stone. No one touched the cake. No one sang. The balloons drifted against the ceiling and the candles burned low, as if even they were tired of pretending. Mark stood with the papers in his hands, fingers shaking. Tessa watched him, eyes wide, mouth tight, breathing quick and shallow. We're going home, Mark said at last. His voice was steady, but it had no warmth. Now, they left the restaurant without goodbyes. Outside, the night air felt cold and honest. The drive was quiet. Tessa kept glancing at him, waiting for him to speak, but he didn't. He drove like a man counting, slow and careful, turning each thought over in his mind. In the living room, he laid the envelope on the coffee table, as if it were a fragile heart. Tessa stood by the window, arms folded. "Say something," she whispered. Mark looked up. "You forged our names." "I panicked," she said. "The boutique can't grow without cash. Sales dropped last quarter. Rent is due. I thought. You thought selling the house behind my back was the answer?" His voice rose, then broke. He took a breath and lowered it. "We could have talked. We should have talked." Tessa paced, heels tapping the floor. Talk leads to waiting. Waiting leads to losing. She turned to him, eyes shining. "I wasn't trying to hurt you. I was trying to save us." "To save me? Save us by lying?" he asked. She looked down. "I was afraid you'd say no." He swallowed hard. "Then I would have said no. And we would have found another way." He opened the folder again. The last page was a small slip, police case number, Evelyn's handwriting next to it, for record only. Mark stared at it for a long time. "Did you know about the mortgage?" he asked, quieter now. "Did you ever wonder why it never hit our account?" Tessa hesitated. I thought you paid it from your business side. Or maybe the bank adjusted something after the refinance. I don't know. I didn't ask." "You didn't ask because you liked the story," Mark said. "The story where we carried everything. The story where my mom was small." Tessa flinched. "She makes me feel judged." "That's not the same as being judged," he said. "It's the feeling you bring when you're hiding." She sat on the edge of the couch, hands clasped like a child waiting for news. "What now?" Mark picked up his phone and dialed. After a few rings, Evelyn answered. Her voice was tired but gentle. "Hi, honey." "Mom," he said, and his voice softened in a way it hadn't all night. "I'm sorry. For everything I didn't see." "You see now," she said. "That's enough for today. Can you come by tomorrow morning?" he asked. "I want to talk about the mortgage. About the title. About everything." "I'll be there at 9, she said. After he hung up, Tessa spoke quickly. "Please don't bring her here." "Not yet. I need a minute." "You had years," Mark said. But he nodded. "We'll meet at her place." Tessa nodded back, swallowing. The house felt different, like it knew the truth, too. That night, Mark slept in the guest room. He didn't say it was separation. He didn't say anything. He needed space to think. Tessa lay awake in their bed, blinking in the dark, counting each breath like a prayer she didn't know how to finish. Morning came sharp and bright. Mark left early with the folder under his arm. He knocked on Evelyn's door and she opened at once, as if she had been waiting near the handle. She hugged him, and he let himself be small for a moment. They sat with coffee at her kitchen table. He spread the papers out, receipts in a neat line, title in the center, case number in the corner. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" he asked. Evelyn looked at the steam rising from her cup. "Because you were building your life. Because pride is useful when you're young. Because I thought kindness was silent." She met his eyes. But silence turned into a wall. "I should have told you when the realtor called." He nodded. "We need to talk to a lawyer," he said. "About the forgery. About how to protect you. Protect the house." "I already called one," Evelyn said, sliding a business card across the table. "We have an appointment at noon." He blinked. "You always plan 2 steps ahead." She smiled sadly. "Being a mother is mostly counting the steps you hope your child won't have to take." At noon, the attorney read everything twice. He was careful, precise, plain in his words. "It's a criminal matter to forge signatures," he said. "The listing never went live, thanks to the agent's caution. That helps. But you need safeguards. File a notice with the county that no sale can occur without both co-owners' notarized consent. Add an alert with the title company. And document the forgery." Mark nodded. "And the marriage?" he asked, surprising himself. The attorney folded his hands. "That's not legal advice. That's life advice. But life and law meet here. Trust is your contract at home." After the meeting, Mark parked outside the house and sat there for a few minutes. He watched their front window, the curtains he and Tessa had picked together. He remembered painting the walls, laughing when they dripped. He remembered the first night the place felt like theirs. He carried those memories like fragile glass as he went inside. Tessa waited at the dining table. No makeup. No armor. A small stack of papers in front of her, ledger pages, rent invoices, supplier emails. "These are the numbers," she said. "All of them. I'm not hiding anything now." He sat down. They went line by line. Some costs made sense. Some were foolish. Some were pure fear pretending to be strategy. When they finished, Tessa spoke in a thin voice. If I close the store, I feel like I fail. If I keep it, I drown. Maybe failing is not the worst thing, Mark said. Maybe lying is. She wiped her eyes with the heel of her hand. I'm sorry, she said. I hate that she sees me small. I wanted to stand taller than her. She wanted us to stand at all, he said. That's the part you didn't see. A long quiet settled between them. Not empty, just open. I made an appointment for counseling, Mark said. For me. And for us if you'll come. I also filed the title alerts. And I asked Mom not to press charges yet. But she set boundaries. I agree with them. Tessa nodded. What are they? Respect in this house, he said. Financial honesty. No big moves without both signatures. And you will apologize to her and to me. Real words. Not for show. She took a breath and let it out slowly. I'll go to counseling, she said. I'll apologize. A pause. And I'll close the store. He looked up. Are you sure? I wanted to be someone, she whispered. But I tried to skip the work and buy the image. I can be someone different. He reached across the table and took her hand. It was cold, but she didn't pull away. That evening, they drove to Evelyn's apartment. Tessa's hands shook as she knocked. Evelyn opened the door and waited. She did not smile. She did not frown. She left room for the truth to walk in first. I'm sorry, Tessa said, voice plain as bread. For the insult. For the lies. For the forgery. I was wrong. Evelyn looked at her for a long moment. Then she nodded once. Thank you for saying it. I'll close the store, Tessa added. I'll pay what I owe. I'll listen when you speak. Evelyn stepped back to let them in. Come sit, she said. We'll write it down. Clear things are kinder to everyone. They sat at the same kitchen table where Mark had set the papers that morning. This time there were 3 pens. They wrote a simple plan. Counseling, budgets, no secrets, legal alerts, monthly check-ins. When they finished, Evelyn poured tea. Is the house safe? Tessa asked, too softly to hide the fear behind her words. It is now, Evelyn said. And so are we if we choose to be. For the first time in days, Mark felt the tight band around his chest loosen. He looked at the 2 women he loved, both stubborn, both brave in different ways. 6 weeks passed like slow rain. No more parties. No more big words. Just small, steady work. Mark went to counseling every Tuesday. Tessa went on Thursdays, sometimes staying after to sit in her car and cry where no one could see. She closed the boutique, sold the display cases, boxed the clothes, and paid every supplier she owed. She texted Evelyn simple messages. Paid rent today. Receipt attached. Attending therapy. Thank you for the tea last Sunday. Evelyn answered the same way each time. Received. Proud of today. One step at a time. On a quiet Sunday, Mark invited Evelyn to their house for dinner. No long table this time. Just 3 plates, 1 candle, and soup on the stove. Tessa wore a plain sweater and no makeup. She met Evelyn at the door and held it open like a doorman. Please come in, she said softly. They ate, and for a while they talked about small things. Weather, the neighbor's dog, a new plant that kept drooping. When the bowls were empty, Tessa stood. I have something to say, she began. Her hands trembled, but her voice was firm. I humiliated you. I lied. I tried to take what wasn't mine. I am working to be different. I know apologies don't erase harm, but I will keep showing you with actions. She looked at Mark, then back at Evelyn. Thank you for not giving up on us. Evelyn listened without interrupting. When Tessa finished, Evelyn reached into her bag and brought out a small, stiff envelope. Cream paper, neat edges, Evelyn's careful handwriting on the front. Mark blinked. Another envelope? Evelyn smiled a little. A Kinder one. She placed it between them. Nobody touched it right away. The last time an envelope landed on a table, a birthday turned into a storm. This one sat like a soft bell waiting to ring. Go on, Evelyn said. Mark opened it and slid out 3 papers. The first was a short letter, written in the same tidy hand as before. Mark, respect is part of love. You chose it. Today I choose something too. Mom. Under the letter lay a notarized deed. Mark read it twice to be sure. Evelyn was gifting her 50% of the house to him. No fee, no trick, transferring full ownership to her son. There was a new rider attached. No sale or refinance without both spouses present and notarized in person. Not required by law, the attorney had said, but allowed as an extra recorded agreement. It protected Mark from surprises and protected Tessa by making secrecy impossible. Tessa's hand flew to her mouth. Evelyn, you don't have to do this. I don't have to, Evelyn said. I want to. Mark's eyes shone. Mom, this is too much. It's not, she replied. It is exactly enough. He turned to the last page. It was a bank check with a list stapled behind it. Every remaining boutique debt, supplier balances, final rent, shipping fees, paid in full. The check wasn't to Tessa. It was made out directly to the creditors, already itemized and scheduled. There was a line at the bottom. Condition, attend therapy for 3 more months. Monthly family check-in. No secret loans. No secret plans. We are done with secrets. Tessa stared at the list. Tears slipped down her face, quiet and shocked. You paid my debts? I paid our piece, Evelyn said. But I did it in a way that can't be twisted. The money goes where it should. It doesn't buy image. It buys clean ground. Mark reached for Tessa's hand. She held on like a person who had been treading water and just felt sand under her feet. For a long moment, they sat in the kind of silence that does not hurt. The candle made a small circle of gold on the table. Outside, a car door closed somewhere ordinary and far away. Then came the twist no one expected. Evelyn took out the photo from Chapter 1, the cheap gift, the one Tessa had mocked. She turned it over. The back had a flattened corner where tape had once been. Evelyn slid a little square of yellowed paper from a pocket behind the frame. I hid this the night of the party, she said. I was going to give it to you if the night went kindly. It did not. So I kept it. Mark unfolded the paper. It was a note in his father's handwriting, dated years ago, after Mark's first big loss in business. For Mark on the uphill days. If your legs are tired, borrow our strength. If your pride is loud, listen to love instead. Dad. Behind the note was a copy of a trust document Mark had never seen. His father had set aside a small emergency fund. Nothing flashy, but enough to catch a fall. It had a clause, released when honesty is chosen over image. The trustee had been Evelyn. The fund had sat untouched for years, waiting for a day like this. That's how I paid the debts, Evelyn said simply. Your father left this for the day we needed to choose the right kind of strong. Tessa covered her face and wept. Not the loud kind, the clean kind, the kind that leaves room for new air after. Mark pressed the note flat with his palm, as if to keep his father's words from floating away. The room felt full, not with furniture or guests, but with truth. It was not the noisy kind of happy. It was the kind that holds. Tessa wiped her eyes and looked at Evelyn. I don't deserve this. That's why it's called a gift, Evelyn said. But it comes with work. Gifts do not replace work. I will do the work, Tessa said. Even when no one is watching. Evelyn stood and Tessa did too. They didn't hug right away. They just stood and looked at each other like two people deciding to start over on the same side. Tea? Tessa asked at last, voice small but steady. Please, Evelyn said. While the kettles sang, Mark walked to the mantel and set the photo there, his little boy self on a bicycle, hair wild, mouth open in a free laugh. He touched the frame and smiled. Later that night, after Evelyn left with the quiet click of the door, Mark and Tessa sat on the couch with the deed between them. The house felt different again. Not expensive. Not grand. Just earned. Mark turned to Tessa. We will frame Dad's note, he said. We'll hang it by the front door. So we see it every time we leave. Every time we come home. Tessa nodded. And I'll put a sign in the kitchen, she added. Small. It will say, no secret plans. They laughed, tired and honest. Outside, the streetlights hummed. Inside, the last candle guttered and went out, not because a night had ended in shame, but because it had ended in peace. And that was the real surprise. The twist wasn't a louder storm. It was a clear sky. The kind you only see after you've told the truth and kept it.